Hello. Would you speak how the law of attraction works with natural disasters such as hurricanes and the tidal waves?
Why do you tie law of attraction to Earth finding balance? In other words, we suspect you're not talking so much about the hurricane itself or the tidal wave itself or the earthquake itself, which you can accept as an Earth rebalancing, as much as you're talking about people and their personal proximity to them.
What I was thinking of is similar to what you just said to the gentleman shortly before, and that was, are we having so much negative thought in certain areas of the country, such as Florida or other parts of the world, where we're attracting the likelihood of hurricanes or tidal waves to occur?
Well, first of all, we will answer your question specifically, but before we do, we want to talk to any of you as an individual, and we want to say to you, say you're living in Florida, and some very knowledgeable non-physical guru he's getting us. That was just for you, yes. Says Florida is not the place to be, for there is disaster looming. We would encourage you to find, if you're going to be in Florida, for you to find some other information that you are aligning with. In other words, let's see if we can get to the bottom of this. Do you accept that your planet is a living being?
Yes.
That is constantly finding its balance? And do you call that a good thing or a bad thing?
A no thing. It's just the way it is.
Well, we call it a really, really, really good thing. We think it is a wonderful thing that your Earth is positioned in its orbit in the perfect proximity with the pull of magnetic interchange with everything else around it, that it maintains its orbit and its balance. And everything about that is so monumentally, perfectly orchestrated. It's just hard for you to get your thoughts around how much well-being is going on in the perfection of the balance of your planet. So when you line up with that thought, in other words, when it's not a no thought, it's a thought. In other words, we don't think it's a no thought to you. We think it's a negative thought to you. In other words, we think when you watch the television and you see the disasters that are brought about by your Earth's rebalancing, the weather patterns or the earthquake or whatever is happening, we don't think you're having no thought. We think you're having thought that is detrimental to your alignment with well-being thought, you see. So if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would be working to align with the idea of this safe universe in which you live. And we would be appreciating our place in this time-space reality, and in that appreciation you will always be in the vibrational attitude that will always inspire you to be in the right place at the right time. So give us more detail about your question. It's a good question, and there are a lot of people asking it, and so we're happy to address it specifically.
Okay, I'm thinking of a conversation I had a couple of days ago with someone who had been in the direct hit of a hurricane here in our state. And they said, we understand from those folks who are predicting weather of the next few years that Florida is in the circumstances align themselves to where we'll have many, many hurricanes like we did this past year. That's an example. And that was, I could feel myself instantly feeling fear, and yet knowing, okay, well, there's more. That's the basis of my question. We can't fit we can't feed into that fear. On the other hand, if it's a perfect balance, are we somehow attracting that by thinking about it all the time, that, oh my gosh, it's going to happen again for the next few years, we're going to have 4 hurricanes hit?
Well, we have to say to you that weather patterns are influenced by attention to subjects. But like everything that's going to happen in your future experience, there are a lot of factors, past and present, that are dovetailing to it. And so if we were standing in your physical shoes and we heard information such as that, we would decide one of 2 things. We would decide, well, I am no longer wanting to live the drama and trauma of hurricanes, which I believe will be more prevalent for a while, and therefore I'm going to relocate to a place where it is more unlikely. Or we would say, I have put myself in a well-structured house which can easily withstand the brunt of this. Jerry and Esther drove through an area that was hit hardest by it, and they noticed that there were buildings standing that apparently had no structural damage, and there were buildings that were not. And it was obvious that it didn't have to be disaster, because it was and wasn't and was and wasn't and was and wasn't. And so there are many things that you can do to bring yourself into alignment, but it's your personal alignment that is necessary. And what we notice is, let's say that you live on the beach in Florida and you've decided that you're going to stay there and take your chances, but you're going to improve your probability of doing well by choosing a structure that is extremely well made, and by choosing landscape that can be easily replaced, and you're going to enjoy the sun while it shines, and you're not going to worry too much about the wind when it blows, and you figure that you'll evacuate when it does, and that your structure will be all right, and it will be another sort of new beginning, and that the whole adventure is fun for you, and that you're in alignment with it, and you know that hurricanes have always been a part of life here. And as you do a little studying, you know that there are patterns where there are increase in some seasons, but you know this has ever been thus, and here Florida stands. And sometimes it is a house cleaning, but the land always survives, and new generations come and rebuild, and that you're at one with it, and you feel fine about it. And so you've brought yourself into vibrational alignment. Because you're in that vibrational alignment, in that connection, even using that as your reason for connection, you would always be in the right place at the right time. And if there were something looming in the future that would not allow you to maintain this balance that you've lined up with, you would get an overwhelming impulse to go someplace else. But we can't teach anyone from their place of fear to make the right decision. In other words, those that offer warnings that say, oh, danger here, everybody get out, first of all, they don't leave. And those that listen often just listen in fear and make their experiences worse, you see. We really want you to come to the place where you expect well-being to be yours, and you line up with it on subjects of earthquakes and subjects of tsunamis and subjects of hurricanes and subjects of cancer and subjects of not enough money. You line up on it on every subject that you have the opportunity. You just find a way to make your, if I'm going to think about this, I'm going to find a way of thinking about it that I can live with. If I'm going to think about this, I'm going to find a way of lining my energy up with it. And when you make that emotional journey again and again and again, before you know it, you're someone who lives in a vibration of well-being. And when you're someone who lives in a vibration of well-being, the seas will part for you. Heaven and earth will move. Things happen, and you're always the one that's standing there unscathed, because your vibration does not allow other than that. And anytime you see something else being lived, it is because there's something else going on in the vibration. Yes, law of attraction is intimately precise. We wouldn't go to an area and if we believed it was an area that was doomed, but we would go to an area and change our belief to understand that no area is doomed, you see. You're not being picked out because you're in a mass consciousness that is thinking negatively. You have individual resources that make you independently in a place of well-being no matter what, you see. And if you watch for it, you see evidence of that everywhere. There are those who like to be in a place where they don't even have to give a thought to anything like that. There are those who frankly like the drama of it. We notice that people clamor to build back on those treacherous beaches, because there is more good going for it than bad going for it, you see. And then there is a whole mass consciousness that criticizes you, who says you should run for the hills like the rest of us, and you should deprive yourself of the joy and beauty of the beach and opt for safety like many others are choosing. And we say, if we were standing in your physical shoes, we'd live out there on the edge of adventure, understanding that well-being will follow us wherever we go. That's what we would work for. And then we would just zig and zag amongst the others. And when they say, how is it that well-being seems to follow you wherever you go? You say, somehow I just got focused on well-being. And the more I focused upon it, the more it came, and the more it came, the more I looked at it, and the more I looked at it, the more it came, and the more it came, the more I looked at it. And they say, well, you must have been born in the perfect place at the perfect time. You say, no, I wasn't. But I learned to focus in a way that felt better all the time. I'm always reaching for the best feeling thought that I can find from wherever I am. And now, after practicing it for 2 weeks, I'm really good at it. Thank you. Enough?